All right, today is May 17th. This is episode 30, and I have decided to go ahead and, even though I'd already done this patch panel repair and the B pillar in the back, I've got this whole panel, as mentioned in the last video, that I can replace that whole thing up to about right here. So I'm going to cut it about right here because it's going to have a lap joint there. And that panel includes the B pillar. So, all right, here we go. All right, that went quicker than I thought. That took me about 20 minutes to cut through all the welds. So the first thing I did is I cut it right here, which that leaves me enough of a margin easily to slide the other panel in back behind that. So I cut it there. No, I'm sorry. I cut around the B pillar first on this part of the weld. Then I cut here, and then it was still attached back here from the panel repair that I did. But in order to get to those, I actually, because I welded those before I welded in the pillar, to get to those I had to bend it back a little bit, and all of the tack welds I had there from the backside, I just had to cut through them. So now all I got to do is and didn't really damage the floor, at least not too much. I can straighten it out. It's a little bit cut right there, but that'll be okay. I'll straighten that back out. I'm gonna have to cut these welds open so I can slide the new piece back. I'll have to clean this off, and so I have a good surface to weld to. But then right now it's just a matter of grinding off the rest of this B pillar that was here, cleaning this up for my waterfall patch. And yeah, so that went pretty simple and pretty smoothly. So I'm gonna get these portions here ground off now. All right, I got that ground down, cleaned up, and what I'm gonna have to do now, because I had to cut the weld to get this loose, cut into this flange of the floor that comes over to 90. So I'm gonna close that back up with a little bit of weld. I've got the welds carefully cut loose along this panel in there. So what's gonna happen now is when I go to put the panel in, that is probably tomorrow, or when somebody else is here to help me, slide that in back behind it. It'll slide to approximately here, and it'll be ready to, since I've got this open, since I got this open right here, if I can get in there, I'm gonna use my tool to punch some spot weld holes in that floor, because that'll weld to the inside of the rear quarter panel that's going on. So this is all ground down flat. I do have a little cut that I inadvertently went through on the floor too, again, trying to get it off. And then I started using my chisel when I noticed this, and I got most of it off, but it tore the floor right there. So what I'm gonna do right now, besides welding that shut, is I'm gonna make a little piece about this wide that'll cover that down to about right there, weld it in, and then grind it down and so forth, and so everything should be okay. Hopefully it won't have the panel sitting up. I'm gonna see where the panel sits, how it's gonna sit on here first before I do that, because I may end up having to weld it from down below. I don't know, we'll see. It's thin enough though. I could probably grind it back, and it will probably be okay, but I'm gonna check that out. All right, here we go. All right, I got my piece cut here, about 4.5 inches long, 1.5 inches wide. It's going to cover from here to there, which is a little bit beyond where the cut through is. This little mark right here, it's all going to be covered with the resin and fiberglass, and then the short strand anyway. So what I'm going to do now is get some weld through primer on this and on this piece, because then I'll flip it over, and that'll be those sides, you know, won't rust and stuff in the future. So, all right, here we go. All right, here we go. We got this little patch panel in place using my magnets, and I've got the copper backer on the back side there, as you can see. So that should help with to serve as a heat sink. So here we go. I've got this welded up. That patch is in there, and I welded the part of the floor here that I cut into when I was trying to cut the welds on the panel to be able to remove the rear quarter section. So this is pretty much ready. The only thing I'm going to do is once I'll put some weld through primer on it for one thing, but once I get the rear quarter welded down where it's going to go on this, then I will, like I've done before on the other weld seams, resin and fiberglass cloth that. And because I won't be able to get to this from the inside once the pillar and, you know, panel combination is welded in, I'll come in from the back side. And actually, I didn't really need to do that. Actually, I'll fiberglass the underside where the seam was, so there'll be no chance of any water getting up in there. I don't know if I'm making it the right part or not. It's up there somewhere. Somewhere in there. I can't see the camera, so I don't know what I'm having you look at, but anyhow, you get the idea. So I'll seam seal it, or, you know, fiberglass and resin from the top side there around that, and then I'll do the same thing underneath, and that way when the undercoating goes on and all that kind of stuff, there'll be no chance of water getting in there. So that's fixed, and it only probably it raises the panel by as much as the thickness of that, which is less than 1/16 of an inch. So it should not be a problem as far as correctly registering the panel before I weld it in place. So at this point, I'm going to clean up the back side of here, so it will allow the flanged edge of that panel to come in, slide in behind it, and I can get a good weld seam on there. So but I'm not actually going to weld it in today. I'm going to wait until I have some help, either tomorrow or when Allie comes back over on Thursday. So I'm going to move on to some other things that I can do in the meantime. And all right. All right, I got some weld through primer on here, so that'll be all nice and covered. And then I also used my air tool to punch some spot weld holes in this flange right here. We got 3, 4, 5, 6 holes there. That way when the rear quarter panel slides in here, back here, the bottom part of it, the very bottom of the thing will, or close to the very bottom, will have spot welds from the back side. And then obviously right here, it slides behind there, and it's going to be welded all the way down along that seam. So I'm going to do the same thing to this part of the inner wheelhouse that will sit down on top of the waterfall panel, and I'm going to do it to this side of the wheelhouse, because it'll spot weld to this edge right here. And this edge right here has been treated with the rust reformer, and that's why it's black. So now that is on there, what I'll do is hit it with some weld through primer as well, so that it can, you know, I can weld into it, and it's coated. It's not gonna rust anymore. So these areas here are not going to be a big deal, even though that, you know, is looks sketchy. I won't spot weld to that, obviously. I'll be on either side of it. It's the metal's too thin to try to weld that shut. So what I'm gonna do is, actually I probably need to go ahead and do that now before I weld that thing on, but this here as well, I'm going to use the fiberglass and resin cloth to go over top of that so that it's sealed off. And then obviously once everything is welded in place, just like in the front, it'll be seam sealed along the edge, and it will be seam sealed or undercoated from underneath, and everything should be good. So a lot of stuff to think about. You got to do things in the right order so you don't miss. I've already missed 1 or 2 times getting welding primer on, so I'm trying to, slow myself down a little bit so I don't, miss something important like that. All right. All right, I got these taken care of with some fiberglass cloth and resin, and so it doesn't look pretty, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be sanded, and then it will have a light coat of the fiberglass short strand filler, and that'll take care of those, so there's no integrity issues. And I went ahead and punched holes in the metal here, because that's gonna spot weld. All those will be spot welds, as well as this lip here that comes across the waterfall panel, and then this part here that will come against the back side of the rear quarter panel. So the first thing I'll do when Allison is back, or whoever helps me, is to slide that in there, and while she's holding the back side, weld that shut, and then I'll have to then put in my waterfall panel piece, and then set the inner wheel housing down on top of that and against the back of the rear quarter, and then finally put the rear panel on. So I think that's going to be the order of things. And I think right now what I'll do is go ahead and make this waterfall panel up. All right, here we go. All right, here's this waterfall patch panel, and I cut it a little bit long just on purpose, just so I have a little bit to work with, because I may just do a lap joint there like that, and I may cut a little slit at this corner and create a little bit of a lip there for it to attach to the rear quarter panel. So that'll fit down in there good. It'll be welded. It'll be welded down, obviously here, right along that seam. Also be welded, at the very least tack welded or something down there, and then seam sealed and everything. But and that way this lip here that I punched holes in will sit down on top of that, and that's where those will get welded too, and should work. Hopefully I've got enough of a lip on that. I think I do, but yeah. So that is going. I'm going to stop for now because I got to get ready to take Coleman to work. So I'll catch you guys next time. Later.